Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of What Does Wellness Mean to Me? We thank you for joining us. Welcome back for those who have been listening to our previous episodes. And if you are new to our channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy and that you gain some valuable knowledge, something that you didn't know before as you are on your wellness journey. Our goal here is to help you, give you some tips, some tools that you can put in your tool bag and just help you as you try to just continue to be a better you. And today, our special guest is Davis Jaspers. He is the owner and CEO and founder of Vitalife, a wellness company.
Yep. Owner, CEO, and founder.
Let's
CEO just throw inventor.
And inventor.
Grand Poobah.
And
what else?
Grand Poobah.
Used to make me sound like I'm kind of a pretty big deal.
He is the creator.
There we go.
Of the Vitalife program. And has helped thousands, millions?
Not millions, but
Not
thousands.
Millions, thousands.
We have had about 25,000 people enroll as members at one of our locations over the past 9 years.
So almost millions, very close to millions, helping people lose weight, change their lifestyle, improve their quality of life by changing their eating habits. So welcome, Davis.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Beautiful day out.
It is nice. Before
it gets cold.
We're in Chicago, so before winter comes. That's everybody's life who lives in Chicago.
That's why I moved to Puerto Rico in the winter.
Yes, because it is up here in Chicago. Anyway, tell us a little bit about you, your company. How did you get to be your journey to developing Vitalife?
Yeah, so my initial plan was to be a pastor. I've always been so interested in and loved the idea of transforming people's lives. And so even as a little kid, that's what I thought I was going to be. My dad's a pastor, his dad's a pastor, his dad's a pastor. So it also was, kind of in the family.
Yes.
And then genetics. Genetics, yeah. I was in school for seminary and working on a master's in theology. And I was, at the time, I was 195 pounds. And for those listening, I'm 5'4". So medically, that would classify me as obese. And I heard someone on the radio say, losing weight is really easy. It's calories. You count calories. So calories in, calories out. So you just have to make sure that your expenditure is more than your intake. And then if you do the math, 3,500 calories is a pound. And so I was like, okay, well, that logically made a lot of sense. And so the app I got was called Calorie Counter. I love how it was very specific.
Very specific. I've used it.
Calorie Counter. Well, and it got bought out, and it's now MyFitnessPal.
Oh, I use that too.
Use that too. Yeah. So, but that was like the first calorie counter, and so I religiously for an entire year ate between 800 and 1,200 calories a day. I would measure everything. It was very precise. I would also, you can put in your activities in there. So I would even put in if I was sitting for an hour. I would program that in there, like every detail.
How many calories is sitting for an hour?
I don't remember, but not very many. But like
20.
Yeah. They didn't have like desk work. I mean, I'm just like sitting there typing all day. So I don't know. And they didn't have desk work as an option, so I just was sitting. Anyway, in the course of a year, I lost 20 pounds. Now, mathematically, if I go back and do the math, I actually should have lost 50 if we count 3,500 calories deficit a pound. Okay, but I only lost 20. Now I understand that, but at the time, I didn't. It wasn't even in my awareness that wasn't. That the calorie thing didn't make sense with how much weight I lost. But I was excited.
Happy.
I was happy.
You made progress.
Made progress, right. Losing 20 pounds in a year is no small feat. So I went on a cruise, and 5-day cruise, first cruise ever. I wasn't drinking alcohol at the time. I didn't, I'm not a big sweet person or anything like that, but just eating a normal diet again. I gained 7 pounds in 5 days, and I came back and it was extremely discouraging. And then I was talking to a naturopath doctor, and he said, well, weight loss is all about metabolic function. He's like, the person who is skinny and eats whatever they want, it's because their metabolism can handle that.
Right.
And then the person who is like me, who walks past Cinnabon and gains a pound,
2 pounds.
2 pounds, and you get a cavity, Right. Your metabolism just doesn't work as well. So we need to get your metabolism like the person who can eat whatever they want, like not getting pounded. I was like, oh, well, that sounds pretty good. And that made sense. So we went through about 6 months of all these tests and all of these genetic tests, blood tests, blood panels that like hundreds of things, and then he created for me the recipe, so to speak, or what I needed to do to lose weight, which is I was taking all of these like fistfuls of like vegan supplements. Mm-hmm. And then I was eating like could have like 12 foods. And I started doing that. It was very, very challenging. But I immediately started to feel good. And then I dropped 30 pounds in 40 days doing that.
In 40 days?
In 40 days, yeah. 20 pounds over the course of a year, 30 pounds in 40 days. It's pretty great. Pretty great.
Right.
So I then dropped out of school and I was like, this is the transformation that I want to see other people have. My mental clarity was so much better. My ability, I was running a cleaning business at the time, to do my job was so much better. Like everything in my life changed. And that became the transformation I wanted to see other people have. And at the same time, I was following a man named James Lawrence. I started getting into distance sports, and he was doing 50 Ironman triathlons in 50 states in 50 days. His nickname is the Iron Cowboy.
Yes.
And I noticed he was doing a bioscan every day, and it would help him with like what he needed for recovery. It would also help him with what he needed for that day for nutrition. And so I reached out to that company. I was like, is there a way we could take this concept and apply it to metabolic function rather than sports performance? And they said, absolutely. You just have to work with us to program it. And so I worked with them for about a year and got my first metabolic bioscan done. I put my parents through my program first. Mm-hmm. My dad lost 40 pounds in 40 days, and he was in his 60s. My mom lost about 27 pounds in 40 days. Mm-hmm. And it changed their life. And then that's when, that's how Vitalife started. And what took me with the bioscans, what took me, 6 months and like $15,000 to figure out, which I would gladly spend again to get the result, mm-hmm. Now we can do in 17 minutes and 30 seconds with our bioscans.
Yeah.
Somebody can walk into a Vitalife location and walk out in an hour
with all of the
with everything they need.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing how you can use a biometric scan, mm-hmm. and it tells you all of the information that's going on, where you're deficient.
Yep.
And then it doesn't just show you deficiencies like with a typical mm-hmm. blood test.
Right.
This doesn't work. Your kidneys don't work. Your liver don't work.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, figure it out. So this not only just gives you the deficiencies, but it also gives you a framework.
Correct. Yeah.
Of what to do.
Of what, and the coolest thing is it's so customized because, let's say two people have a thyroid condition. Mm-hmm. Let's say, they have hypothyroid. And, everybody is so unique, and even like now, Western medicine is now starting to understand the role of our belief systems and our thought processes over our health, So if you have a bad day, let's say, like you're angry at your partner or whatever's going on, you have a bad day, your health at that moment in time is going to be different than it will be the next day. So on a moment by moment basis, our bodies are constantly changing. So we have two people that have a thyroid condition, right? Now, Western medicine is going to say, okay, well, here's your thyroid levels are here. You're, a 5'4" female who weighs, 140 pounds. So here's the milligrams we'll start with. We'll try this out. Yeah. We'll test this. We're practicing medicine on you.
We're going to practice on you.
We're going to practice on you. Right. Practice medicine.
See what sticks.
Yeah. See if this works. And then there's a formula for that. And then they do the same thing for this other person, right? Well, the question is why, and this is the question that natural medicine or functional medicine asks that Western medicine doesn't do, right? Why is my thyroid not working right?
Right.
Now,
not that it's not working.
Not that it's not working. Why is it not working right?
But why is it not working?
Why is it not working right?
Right.
So rather than, okay, well, it's not working, so we're just going to do it for it, right? Okay, we're not producing the right hormones. Let's just shoot you up with some. Okay, and this is not to criticize anybody who's doing some of these things. Like there are legitimate reasons why some people will have to do that, even if they do all of the other stuff. Right. Yeah. So I just throw that out there. I'm just saying it's definitely not everyone.
Yes.
but rather than like everybody getting the same thing, it's like, well, what does your body specifically need to overcome that? To make it function properly.
Like it should.
Right. And then let's give the body that. Let's give the body a chance. And that's what the bioscan does. The bioscan is the communication that we have, that the body can tell us, here's what I need.
Yes. Yeah. Here's what I need. Here's what I want. Not, oh, well, you know what? You didn't do that right. Let's try this. You mentioned that we give you something to make it do it for you.
Yes.
And oftentimes in physical therapy, we see people that come in with braces, or mostly this comes along with like back braces, or with not necessarily for support, but more so, or they have the belt that comes around for the core. And, you know, we're always telling them that it's good for a short period of time.
Yep.
But you can't wear it forever. Yep. Because if it's holding you up, your back muscles will say, your core muscles, I don't have to do anything.
Yep.
Because they have this device that's doing it for me.
Yep.
So it's going to actually get worse before it gets better. Because the muscles will get weaker. So you'll lose whatever strength you had before the injury if you're wearing this 24 hours. So we always say, wear it during a time of stress or strain when you need the support, but the other time, take it off and actually try to use those muscles.
Yep.
And that's very similar with the prescriptions that we get.
Yeah.
When they give us a prescription to help with something, it takes on that function, then our body's like, oh, I ain't got to do it. I'm finna just sit over here. Yeah. What? No, I'm off today. Actually, I'm off for the next 50 years. Thank you. And that doesn't improve our health. It just helps us maintain.
Yeah.
If at best.
At best.
At best.
At best.
It helps us maintain. But at some point, like I said, you continue to get weaker.
Right.
Which means you'll continue to need to up the dose.
Right.
And up the dose.
You know,
up the dose.
So Vitalife and the way I strive to also just live my life is there's things that some people will call them irrefutable laws. Some people will call them laws of nature. But it's like an example of the law of nature is like seasons. Okay, so we have 4 seasons, right? And
some places don't. Probably not Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico has like a season and a half. Fair. Also, though, Puerto Rico does not experience what places that have seasons experience. Okay, so for instance, they can't grow certain things, and whatever. You can't go sledding down a snow hill.
Darn it! You can't in January, like here, be at the beach or go.
You can't
jump into the polar ice. You can't do that in Puerto Rico either.
You can't take cold showers in
Puerto Rico.
Darn it!
No,
because it's so warm. The water is hot.
Just warm. Oh darn!
Yep.
It's so hard.
Right? Yep. But anyway, the seasons, and those seasons actually apply to everything, right? So in life, you don't ever have one problem at a time.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? But no, it's like, okay, my partner and I broke up, and my company is struggling, and I got diagnosed with this disease, and somebody was embezzling money, and it's never one thing. Off. Yeah, my foot fell off. Yeah, it's all at once. And then for those of you who are listening, if you're going through like that, we call those are winter seasons. Those are the really tough times, the really trying times. But it's like Chicago. It's the long winters that create tough people. We would go back to like looking at like when the settlers, like winter was like the time where it would kill off the weak, and the strong would survive, and the strong would get stronger. So when you look at like the idea of what you're saying with physical therapy, it's like, if you don't do the work, you're not going to be stronger, because
you're not going to be stronger.
Yeah. Pain is the school teacher for life. And pain, it could be a mild discomfort, it could be excruciating pain, it could be a mental pain, but pain is what causes growth. If we have no pain, we never grow.
Right.
So when I look at like Western medicine, right, we are jumping to the quick fix, which always makes us weak. Right, it always makes us weak. So it's like, you know, that famous adage, "Good times make for weak soldiers." You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, same thing. It's like, but that's like a life principle. Same thing with like, I don't have kids, but you have 2 daughters, right?
3 girls.
3 daughters. And I know you well enough to know you do not do things for your daughters. You make your daughters do the things for themselves because that's what makes them learn.
Yes.
If you always did it for them, just like if we always do something for our body, if we always give our body a crutch, if we always give our body a medication, it won't do it for itself.
Right.
You used to do like some bodybuilding, right? Some amateur bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some friends who are currently, you know, in the bodybuilding world,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, they talk about taking testosterone injections, and over time, they don't produce testosterone anymore. Yeah. So their balls actually shrivel up.
Okay, very interesting.
Can I say balls on your podcast?
I mean, it's been said. It's out there.
All right.
Can't take it back.
You didn't tell me any of those rules. But
maybe we
then they have to continue to take that.
Right.
You know, because their body says, okay, because again, homeostasis in the body, if you have all this testosterone in your blood, well, you don't need to.
I don't need to make it. I need right, because it's too much.
Too much, right.
And so then I don't need to produce stuff. So then once we start taking it, the body's still like, oh, wait, you told me to stop.
Right. Yeah, and
then
it can be.
Start back? I might, may not.
It's very, very, very difficult, like to get back to production at the same level it was.
Right.
Very difficult.
Right. Yeah. And to that, or on that same topic, there are now a lot of people who are taking injections
mm-hmm.
for weight loss.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a huge thing that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
How does, if you could, you know, kind of explain or shed a little light on how taking
mm-hmm.
those injections, to what we're just talking about, how does that affect the body long term?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's the Ozempic craze, right? So it's the Ozempic, the semaglutide, the GLP-1. It's like all of that stuff. It's all doing the same thing. They all have different names, different brands. Yeah. Yes. It's all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, a couple of building blocks. When there's a medication that's released, they don't always know something called the mechanism of action. So that's a very specific pharmacy term, actually technically chemistry term, but it's used, you know, both. But it's basically like, we know that this does this, right? Like the GLP-1, right? Mm-hmm. This is the receptor, it's doing this on this and this and this, right? So we know specifically with this that it does a couple things. With Ozempic, semaglutide, we know it does specific things. We don't always, when a medication is released, we don't always know what it does. We just know that it helps, and we know that it didn't kill enough people to not release it and make much money. Right?
More people lived.
More people lived, and we helped some people.
And they got these results.
Yeah.
So
that might be, I don't think that's too harsh. I think it's pretty accurate. But anyway, so with this specific one, we know the mechanism of action. Now, the other thing is, we do not know for sure, this is interesting, we do not know for sure how people and why people age. Okay, so we don't know the mechanism of action for aging. The scientific community does not know. There's like theories that are very explainable and they make sense, but we haven't been able to prove them, and we don't know which one it is. Okay, so when we look at obesity and weight issues, we actually know at least one thing that causes obesity, but we only know one. Okay, which is interesting. And I'm just gonna everybody's like, oh, well, what is it? What is it, right? Because everybody thinks, well, it's got to be the food I'm eating. Okay, then if that's the case, then why do we have people that literally eat whatever they want and they never gain a pound and they're thin, right? So that doesn't account for that. What about family history, right? So if my parents are obese, why does that increase my chances of obesity? So you have to have a theory of obesity also, and a mechanism of action for obesity that accounts for all of that. Why, when you're stressed, why does that cause obesity, even if you don't change your diet? Yeah. You know, so what people do when they're stressed is they tend to eat food that's not healthy for them, that is mentally relaxing for them, gives them dopamine highs, right? But even if they didn't do that, they would still gain weight just for the fact of being stressed. So why is that, right? So to be able to encompass all of these, and we're just using a few, right? Activity levels. So, well, people say, well, you're not active enough, or people will go back to the calories in, calories out, right? So it's like, well, what is, and that's why, like, when I found out all that I know about weight loss and the body and metabolic function when I found out, I was just blown away why we ever allowed calories to be the thing in weight loss. Because
counting calories,
because calorie by definition is, I'm going to slaughter this, and there's going to be some really smart person who's like, well, it's technically not that, but it's like,
thank you for your positive
comments. Yes. And you can trash this.
And your correct
comments. Yes. Thank you for those who Google searched it and said it was this. But basically, a calorie is the amount of energy it takes to burn a gram of something in a vacuum at sea level.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we're in New Lenox, so we're not at sea level. Also, is your body a vacuum?
It sucks things in.
Not that type of vacuum.
Oh, okay.
Not that type of vacuum.
Okay. Didn't know.
Yeah. But for those who actually might think about a vacuum is a space that has everything sucked out of it. Like it's there's nothing else in that space, basically. So when they're, for instance, when they're measuring calories, like there's food companies that or companies that food companies hire, and they burn at sea level their food, and then that's how they tell the calories that are in it.
Okay.
That's what it is. Now, all right. So this is a great. So the reason
just learn something today.
Just learn something. So the reason science has loved this idea is because science likes to have these very neat boxes for everything to sit in. What most scientific processes do not like are things like quantum physics, right? Which is like the stuff that we can see is there, but we don't understand it, right? So it doesn't fit into these nice, neat little boxes. So the only way a calorie could be a calorie is if your body was always constant, which means your body would have to always have the same serum levels or blood levels of everything all the time, right? So your calcium, your glucose, your, bilirubin, your all of the things.
All the things.
Hundreds of things, right? They would all have to be constant for the idea of a calorie to work. Okay, now they're not constant.
No.
And
one thing that I learned this weekend, I just came back from a conference. One thing that I learned was that our cells turn over every 84 days. I mean, they're constantly growing and dying, but in 84 days, we are a brand new person.
Yes.
We are not the person we were 84 days ago, because every cell is new at that time.
At 84 days. Yep. That's one reason why, like, so when we take people through 40 days, they're of really clean eating on Vitalife, half of their body is new with just the best building blocks.
Right. Yeah. Just half. Right.
Yeah, just half.
So if if you turn, then it's like, oh, those half are now going to join the bad half again. So you want to continue.
Yep.
So you can't ever be in that vacuum, because your body is always changing.
It's always changing. Yeah. So, and then people are always different, right? So, and then why can the person who's eating, 5,000 or 6,000 calories a day and skinny, like, that doesn't make sense. Why is his body just able to do something more with that food and calories than other people? Yeah. So the idea of calories, which is a very it's not a biology concept, right? So we have our biology as a branch of science, and then we have I think that's a concept in thermodynamics. So it's like we're taking a concept in thermodynamics and applying that to biology. It just doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. And because I argue with people about this all the time, even people in the fitness world. You can't also count a calorie as a calorie when the ingestion of the calorie inhibits your body's ability to properly burn calories. Okay, I'll say it again because it's long, but it's really good.
I hope you have your paper out.
For all of you who are just listening, she is writing notes feverishly. So a calorie is not a calorie when the ingestion of the calorie inhibits the body's ability to burn calories. Okay, so basically, if you're eating food that hurts metabolic function, then how in the world could we say a calorie is a calorie? And then the big push, so the big push for calorie is a calorie is our food companies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's 11 food companies in the United States that control 90% of our food. So the two biggest and most money in Washington for lobby power are the pharmaceutical companies and the
Mm-hmm.
food companies.
Right.
Okay, and they have a lot of control.
Yeah,
a lot of control. And so, if you follow Coca-Cola throughout the years, they have put out multiple times ads saying a calorie is a calorie. Use your disposable calories. Nobody has disposable calories. I want to throw that out there too. If you ate just the most healthy, nutrient-dense food, there's like a nutrient density list, like per calorie. These are the most nutrient-dense foods.
Mm-hmm.
There's a list of that. Anyway, if you were just to eat the most nutrient-dense foods and you're eating 2,500 calories to 3,000 calories a day of the nutrient-dense foods, you would still end up with nutrition deficiencies.
From eating the most
nutrient-dense foods available, you would still end up with nutrition deficiencies. So that's where, when we look at a supplement,
mm-hmm.
That is exactly why we have supplements. It's to supplement the healthy diet. It's not, there's a reason why we don't call supplements replacements.
Yes.
It's not replacing the healthy diet. If you eat a really crappy diet and you take supplements, you really end up with expensive urine. So that's what I like to.
Yes, that's
like to call it.
Yeah, because sometimes people will be like, "Oh, well, I take all these supplements," and that's another thing too. Squirrel moment. With the bioscan,
mm-hmm.
it helps hone in what supplements your body needs.
Exactly.
Versus saying, "Oh, well, yeah, I just went to Walgreens,
mm-hmm.
not Walgreens, but I just went to Walgreens."
Don't sue us, Walgreens. Walgreens, we love you for what you do.
We do. I went to the pharmaceutical section in the store.
There we go. That's better.
And I saw all of these vitamins and nutrients, and I just picked out 20 random ones and just started taking it. How do you know that's mm-hmm. what your body needs?
Yeah. Well, and then there's I don't know what year the study was. It's been probably at least 20 years ago, but just basically showing that I think it was 97. It's either 92 or 97, one of the two. Percent of supplements are either ineffective or adulterated. Okay, so when we talk like
supplements,
adulterated. I said adulterated, not adulterous. The supplements are not adulterous.
Okay,
they're not adulterous supplements. They're adulterated.
Okay,
which basically means they have things in them that are either off-label, which they're allowed to have trace amounts of that, but they have things either that are off-label or things that are actually known to cause damage to the body over time. Okay,
imagine that.
But it's cheaper to do it that way. There is and for the Western medicine and doctors, they will criticize like the supplement industry. And for all fairness, there's a lot of criticism in the supplement industry to be had. People say, well, it's not FDA regulated. All right. It is absolutely FDA regulated. The difference between a supplement and a medication. Okay. A supplement has to follow a list of rules from the FDA. If you put these things in your supplements, you're okay. And at these amounts, right? Mm-hmm. There's lists of things that they can do. If you step outside that list, that's when you have to, you're a medication and you have to go through all of the mm-hmm. testing of that. But when we look at like a supplement, let's take, let's just vitamin C, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we don't have to test vitamin C. We already know that vitamin C, what it does for the body, mm-hmm. right? And we know at what levels it becomes dangerous, which is pretty much impossible, but we know at what levels some of these things can become dangerous. Yeah. So that's the difference. So, when people are like, well, are the supplements, regulated by the FDA? Absolutely. Absolutely they are. The key is the integrity of the supplement company, because yes, they are regulated, but they are not tested to the same level that medications are, right. Because medications kill people all the time. Properly prescribed medications still kill people all the time. And they have side effects. And that's right. Why they have side effects, right. Is because it's actually altering. It's something that's been man-made. Right. So it's a compound that has been altered to make something happen, right? To mimic something or whatever. Not doing in the body. Exactly. So when we look at the difference between the two, the key is finding a supplement company with integrity, right? One of the things that when people are like, well, what about this supplement company? I mean, there are thousands of them, right? So the one thing that I would say to look at, and this is the tell, Okay. If your supplement has something called magnesium stearate in it, we're going to write that down. Magnesium stearate. Okay. It's a company that, it doesn't mean they're evil people, but it's a company that isn't going to the level of care that they should be going to for their people. Magnesium stearate, if you take that day after day after day after day, will cause health issues long term. Okay, but it is on what's called the GRAS list, the generally recognized as safe list. Okay,
generally,
yeah, the GRAS list. So that means they can put it in, and I believe magnesium stearate is called a flow agent. So when you're supplement manufacturing, and then supplement as opposed to pilling. Okay, so a pill is like compressed. It's like that's how they pill, and they have to have binders to pill. Okay, so a lot of your medications are pills. You also have capsules.
Right.
Supplements tend to be more capsules, although they do pill supplements as well. Supplements tend to be capsules, and so basically, you have all of these capsules that are open, right, and they're on a big tray, and they move into the tray under the conveyor belt, and then the top thing comes down, and then it shoots all of the whatever the supplement is into these open things. Now, if you can visualize this, you're gonna have like a poof of supplement gunk go around the machine. Okay, so that's what happens. Like comes down, poof, you've got residue on that, and that residue gets into the machinery, which makes sense. If you open up a supplement, it's like powdery stuff, right?
Yes.
Residue gets on the machinery. So in order to what they discovered is that they need machine lubricant in the supplements, so it will not wear down the machinery as fast.
Because if it takes on that dust, particles, it's going to wear out.
It's going to wear out very quickly. It's like throwing sand in a machine, right? Yeah. But if you threw sand in a machine with also some lubrication in there, so basically, I believe it's magnesium stearate. If it's not, it's in a lot of other supplements, but I believe it's magnesium stearate is a machine lubricant. So it's basically a powdery machine lubricant, and you get to eat that with all of your supplements every morning. So magnesium. So
learned it here, guys.
Yeah, you learned it here. I like to use Premier Research Labs. I know that that's what you carry here as well, because they never will use that. They also energy test. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of tests that happen in the supplement world. So like you get a barrel of turmeric in, and I've toured their facility and seen it's really, really fun. But you get a barrel of turmeric in, and then they have this long rod that looks kind of like a tripod, and they stick it all the way down, and then they turn it, and then it takes samplings from the top to the bottom. Okay, because what happens good materials are not sourced in the U.S. for supplements. They have to be sourced overseas. Okay. So that means, though, that there's a lot of also complications with sourcing those materials. So anyway, that hole that gets stuck in basically takes a test layer from all of the different places, because what some places will do is they'll fill the bottom with something that's an orange powder, and the rest is actually turmeric. Just the top. Right? So like little they're tricks. They're trying to be sneaky. So that's a test that they do, and then they can test for is this what it says it is, and has it been damaged? Is there other things in it? Right. And then what Premier Research Labs does is they energy test it. So for instance, to take it to the next level, everything in the universe has a specific resonant frequency. It has to do with how the electrons spin around the nucleus. Okay, so if you go back to the periodic table, you got all of the electrons, and basically it's almost like a song. It could be or a vibration, or even a light. Okay, those are kind of like ways to think or even measure it. So they measure it with light, and they have this, I don't even know what this is, some sort of spectrometer thingy, okay, that they measure it with. But they're basically able to not only say, okay, this says it's turmeric. Turmeric is supposed to have this resonance, okay? We're going to see how close it is to that, because damaged turmeric doesn't have the right resonance. So you can do all of the tests, but you're not going to know if it's damaged unless it's really damaged, like rancid or something.
You look at it like,
there's a dead rat.
That's red.
Like, oh, that's really
that's
not good.
purple.
I don't think turmeric's purple. But anyway, they do that, and if it doesn't match their standard for resonant frequency after it passes all the other standard tests that they do, that they then take that turmeric in this example, and then they'll sell it to another supplement company that doesn't care as much, because they're that particular. So I like, there may be other companies that are that particular, but not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. I know that a company called Standard Process also has a little bit of energy testing with their batches, but I have not toured their facility. I don't know the people there. Premier Research Labs, I know the people there. I know I've been to their facility several times and really appreciate what they do. So that's a great, like, you're going to pay more for a quality supplement. The other thing is,
if it's on sale, don't buy it.
Yeah, if it's on sale, don't buy it. Yeah. Vegan, right? So a supplement that's all vegan is really important because there's no known downsides to vegan food, vegan diet. There's nothing in eating once living plants that causes any disease processes that we know of. Okay. Now I'm going to say that I'm sure somebody's going to buy it. Well, if you eat 1 million carrots in a day, you're going to turn orange and die, possibly. But I'm just saying in general. But for instance, we know that animal products like red meat, we know it causes cancer and atherosclerosis and things like that. We also know that it tastes good on the grill. But we do know that it does have those issues. Like we've seen that, we've connected those dots. Okay. Whereas when we look at plants, that's not the case. Man, I'm about to go on a side tangent. I'll go back to that.
I was about to go on a side tangent earlier when you said vegan, vegetarian, but
so anyway, but the supplements being nothing synthetic, so nothing man-made in that supplement is very important. It being 100% vegan sourced, that's important. It being even the capsule, so that capsule that we were talking about, the capsules that the only capsules I will use in my company are vegetable capsules. Okay. The other thing is nutritive. Okay, 100% nutritive substances. Okay. Now, a nutritive substance is a substance that is meant to be ingested, catabolized, which means broken apart into its individual molecules, and then metabolized, which means recombined into something else, basically. Okay. So let's take it, like, for instance, sucralose or that it's an artificial sweetener, sucralose, right? Sucrose is table sugar, and then sucralose is the man-made version of table sugar that is 0 calories. Okay. 0 calories. So they say. Okay. So a 0 calorie thing is something that passes through the body without being catabolized, broken apart, and then metabolized and used in the body. Okay, so it is passed through, right? Different than fiber. Fiber serves expensive urine. Fiber serves a purpose, and it is not broken down the same way. But when we look at an artificial sweetener, here's the problem. When they're testing to see if it is metabolized, it's like somebody is having to go there and eat this stuff and test how much came in and how much comes out. That's basically how they got to figure it out. But there's variances. In other words, let's just say they put 100 grams in and they're hoping to get 100 grams out. But they don't quite get 100 grams out. They get like 96 grams out in this example.
What happened to those 4 grams?
What happened to those 4 grams? All right. Well, now we know, and this came out maybe 5 years ago, it started to come out, where specifically with aspartame, another artificial sweetener, specifically with aspartame, like, oh, we found a correlation between people who are taking a lot of aspartame and Alzheimer's and dementia. Which makes sense, because now when they found this out, what they're finding when they do like an autopsy or when they're studying cadavers and stuff like that, they're finding for Alzheimer's patients, because specifically, like, there hasn't been any breakthroughs in Alzheimer's in, I think, like 70 years or something. Like we basically suck at treating that disease. Best thing to do is prevention, but they are calling it now a metabolic disease, and they're calling it like type 4 diabetes, I believe is what they're calling it now, which makes sense. So when they are doing the cadaver studies with the Alzheimer's and dementia patients, which, again, all Alzheimer's is dementia, but not all dementia is Alzheimer's, for those who are like trying to distinguish the diseases. They're finding in the synapses, which a synapse is, so in your brain you have neurons, right? So a neuron kind of looks like the end of a bone, and then on the other side, there's a little tiny space, and I mean, we're talking microscopic, but there's a little tiny space, and then there's like a receiver. And for those of you who are watching here, you get a receiver. I don't even know, what was it? It looks like a C, right? So you have a C and then you have a fist, basically. And that space in between is called a synapse. Okay. And then the way the body works is it comes from the C section down to this section, down to the fist or the bone section. It releases something called a neurotransmitter. And that neurotransmitter then lands on this, and that's what signals your neurons. Okay? It happens like lightning fast.
Yes.
It's happening very, very quickly. And it's happening.
Not as slow as he was demonstrating.
Yes, that was very slow. Trillions of these are happening constantly.
all the
right?
time.
It's like if I'm moving and thinking and all that, it's happening. They're firing. Okay. So a neurotransmitter interrupter is something that inhibits that action. Okay. And there is a list, there's a list of neurotransmitter interrupters. Okay. So we know that there are some things that do that. Why? Okay. Because specifically with aspartame, we know that that's a neurotransmitter interrupter. They have found in that synapse aspartame. So to answer the question, where is those extra 4 grams going? Your neurons.
To the brain.
It's going, well, in probably other places too, but we do know for sure it's ending up in the neurons, in the synapses. So it's like, now you have this, right? But you have this like stuff in there, aspartame. So as those chemicals are trying to release the signal, they're being inhibited, okay? And that's how it can cause Alzheimer's.
And then one of our previous guests was talking about how Parkinson's is also in the dementia family. And I was like, didn't know that. Makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense.
To what you were just saying, to your point, and that aspartame being in the synapse is when you're trying to get the body to move.
Absolutely.
When you know tremors.
Yep.
And when you're getting a lot of falls or rigidity, it's because the synapses the neurotransmitters are trying to land where they're supposed to, but they're having to, let me see if I can get through here. Let me see if I got some space. And so then that causes that disruption in the movement.
And it also, functional medicine thinking wise here is, so when the body's trying to do something and it can't, right, then it's going to signal the body to do more of that thing, right? So it's like, for instance, when you stop breathing, right, the longer you hold your breath, don't stop breathing. Well, if you want,
don't try this.
If you're driving, don't try this. If you hold your breath, the longer you hold your breath, the more your body is signaling for you to breathe. The more uncomfortable it makes your body, right? So for instance, I don't have any kids, but I've heard this happens also with children that get really angry. They will hold their breath to like get back at their parent, and then they'll keep holding it until they pass out. So eventually what the body does is the body takes over. All right, well, we're just going to have you pass out.
You know what?
And then you start breathing.
Put you sleep. Go to sleep.
Yep. You're just start breathing.
And then now we will breathe.
Right. So the body always wants to be alive, and the body always wants to reach homeostasis. So it will fight for you to stay alive by knocking you out in that instance. So when we're dealing with, okay, wow, it's the neurotransmitters aren't getting through. So what the body does is it signals more. All right, now we have, and we don't know what it is, but there's a limited number of everything that we have. The pancreas only can produce a limited number of insulin before it burns out the beta cells. Your finger can only do this a limited number of times before its joints have issues. Everybody's a little bit different, but basically, if you now are blocking the neurotransmitters, then your neurotransmitters are going to be working overtime, which means you're going to have less of them over time as well. So it's also something that will speed up the aging process. So it's like, why do unhealthy diets make people age faster? Well, these are part of the things. It's because the body is having to work overtime to try to combat all of the damage that we're throwing in it on a constant basis.
So I know. I mean, we haven't even talked about our main topic, which is, what does wellness mean?
That's our main topic. What does wellness mean?
What's your definition of wellness? I think we've learned a lot, though. I hope you have notes.
So my definition of wellness is mind, body, spirit in harmony and balance. So when I look at those three things, it's like you can't really have wellness without all three of those. So we'll say, when I look at like spirit, right? So for people who don't believe in a higher power, right? It's really hard to find happy atheists. Okay. Maybe you're a happy atheist out there and you can post on here about how upset you are that I said that. But and when I say atheist, I'm just somebody who believes there is no higher power. I'm not saying somebody who doesn't, believe in the God of the King James version of the Bible, or I'm saying somebody who believes in no higher power. Okay, it's also different from the agnostic who believes he just doesn't know, he or she doesn't know. That's why I always like the joke is what does the agnostic, insomniac, dyslexic do? He stays up all night wondering if there is a dog.
If there's a dog.
So that's a joke for the intellectual there. Like agnostic, dyslexic, he reads backwards. Okay. Insomniac, he doesn't sleep. Okay, now it makes sense. He's up all night wondering if there is a dog. Okay, I get it. But the wellness is like, you can have wellness without having health as well. You can have something wrong with you and still have wellness. But it does definitely play into that, so it's mind, body, spirit balance, right? So mind is our thought processes and how we approach the world, our belief systems. Obviously that connects, and they're all connected. That connects to our spirit, what we believe about our spirituality, right, about a higher power, about karma, about good and evil in the world, like all of those things, like that's a part of it. And then body, and then all of them are so interconnected. That's the thing. So you can, one of my favorite books is The Biology of Belief, written by Dr. Bruce Lipton, which I believe he won the Nobel Prize for his work in cellular biology. And he was an atheist. Mm-hmm. And the more he studied cellular biology and the phenomenons that happen, mm-hmm, he became a believer in a higher power. And that's why he put The Biology of Belief, which, mm-hmm, is a great book on basically how you can believe your health into different things. Yeah. It's a very, very, very good book. So I would say that's what wellness means to me is mind, body, spirit in harmony. Yeah. There's a lot of healthy people that are miserable, True. There's a lot of physically healthy people, right? In fact, a lot of people, especially younger people, they're physically healthy. Yeah. They don't have any problems yet. Yeah. And they're not happy. Yeah. I put this quote on my Instagram the other day. I can't remember who said it, and I think I just adapted it from someone who said it a different way. But a lot of people most Americans in Western society spends their youth and spends their time of health to try to create their fortune, and, mm-hmm, and build wealth. Right. And then in the last half of their life, they spend all of their wealth trying to regain their health. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what wellness means to me. Yeah, it's a great question.
I like how you just said that last one, because that's so true. Mm-hmm. When you're younger, you're always money,
and willing to do a lot of things for it. For those, yeah, who are driven that way, yeah, it's like, I'm going to stay up late and I'm going to do this and, yeah, I'm going to make these sacrifices. Yeah. And what I realized when I went through my health transformation is I can do a lot more of that without it damaging my body if I come into it with a healthy body. Right.
Right.
I have that
healthy mindset.
Yes, absolutely.
And like you said, having that balance between the three, you can't put one, mm-hmm, too high above the other, because, right, if you're just focused, let's say in our bodybuilding community. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, that's some serious dedication.
Yep.
It is, whoop, this is all you're doing. This is all you eat. Yep. This is all you can.
It's your life, for sure.
It is your life. Even if you do work and, mm-hmm, doing other things, it is your life. And sometimes it can, working on that goal, if you don't have that balance of, let me take a minute to refocus, or even, mm-hmm, mentally, because that's, I think, why a lot of people don't do the bodybuilding, mm-hmm, because it is definitely a physical challenge, but it is a mental challenge.
For sure. Absolutely. I had aspirations of doing like a physique contest, like, mm-hmm, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. But I wanted to do it all naturally, mm-hmm, It's a lot. It's a lot. I couldn't dedicate the time, because I was eating all the time. And because I was doing, I was trying to also do it with predominantly vegan. Mm-hmm. So I was eating all the time and, working out, for like 2 hours a day. And then
2 days.
Yeah. And then seeing some gains, but very slow. And then people, the guys that are shooting themselves with testosterone, they're just like, yeah. And you can actually, if you Google search the difference between like somebody who does it naturally versus somebody who's doing steroids, because there's like, you'll see like a lot of examples of photos. The people who are doing the steroids, their bodies look funny. You know, they just look funny.
Look different.
Yeah, they don't look like a normal human being. No offense to them at all. It takes just as much work. Yeah. It takes just as much work.
What changes, whether good or bad, have you seen lately in the wellness industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously right now with the Ozempic craze, we been talking about that. If we go back to the laws of nature, there is only one process to do things right in everything. Now, there's lots of ways to do that, but the process is the same, right? So for instance, we'll talk about weight loss. Let's just talk about Weight Watchers for an example, okay? Weight Watchers can work for weight loss. It can do it, okay? Keto can work for weight loss. Atkins can work for weight loss. The Mediterranean diet can work for weight loss. The hot dog diet can work for weight loss. There's lots of different things that can work for weight loss, okay? But the process is the same. And when I say that is, okay, so if you do Weight Watchers and you are counting your points and you are eating Snickers and you're drinking Diet Coke and you're doing this and and that's how you do your points, you'll lose some weight. You'll also lose a lot of health doing that.
A lot of muscle.
A lot of muscle. So the way you could do Weight Watchers to lose weight and also gain health at the same time, right, is by eating whole foods, by eating a lot of plants, by eating clean protein sources, free range chicken, buying chicken from your local farmer if you can, buying beef from your, if you can buy a cow that's been humanely raised, split it with some neighbors or whatever, right? That's what I say, clean proteins, right? Organic food, right? So if you do those things, not only will you lose weight, you'll also gain health. So there is no other way to do it, right? So anything that's telling you you can do it another way is trying to sell you something, right? So then the question that I get is, well, Davis, isn't that what your company does? You're selling us something, 100%. And we even call it tuition. We are selling you education because we have the bioscans. Yes, we have the coaching. We have all of the bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, we are educating you on how to eat to optimize your health. That's it. How to eat to optimize your health. And we take into a factor of that wellness. So for instance, we're not, there's a thing called, I think it's called orthorexia, which is like being obsessed about health so much that you basically are, you have a problem, right? So, when we look at like those three things, I want you to have grandma's cookies when you're over at her house for Christmas. I don't want you, if eggnog is your jam and you have that at Christmas every year or whenever, and that's your thing, I keep on using Christmas. If it's Thanksgiving and you want to have the stuffing and it's not, and you're going to eat so much food that you're going to pass out afterwards, it's great. That's not a problem. As long as it's part of your plan, as long as it's part of what you're doing. And
that should be every so often.
Correct. It's a celebration, right? So
it shouldn't be your everyday.
It's not your everyday, right? And the problem we get with the everyday issues, specifically in America, it's the convenience food. So again, the easier and faster it is to do something, the weaker it makes us.
Yeah.
Right. So if our meals are drive-throughs, right, it will greatly damage our health, right? Yeah. So when I go back at, you can use Weight Watchers to succeed if you do those principles. You can use Atkins to succeed if you do those principles. You can use keto to succeed if you do those principles. Okay. You can just do those principles on your own and succeed. Okay. So some of it's going to be like, well, what do I want to choose? Some of it is going to be, well, what makes sense to me? Like, I like this idea because it makes sense to me. As far as like choosing like a weight loss program, do I want the people that are working with me? Do I like those people? Like, that's huge. Like, do I want these people to help me? What are some of the advantages of this program over other programs? Like, so Vitalife, we have the bioscan. Okay, Weight Watchers isn't going to have a bioscan, right? Well, you're going to, you're going to pay more to do Vitalife. You're going to pay for a bioscan, where Weight Watchers, you're going to pay a monthly subscription. You're not going to get any bioscans, you know. You're not going to necessarily get like one-on-one coaching, okay? What other things are they going to support my body with, right? So I'm losing weight.
Yeah.
Like, what's the nutritional support on top of like my diet, right? So the process is always the same. And anytime you try to shortcut that process, it creates problems. Anytime. This is an irrefutable law. I don't care what it is. This is the get rich quick scheme. Nobody ever gets rich quick. You know, people who win the lottery, 80% of the people who win the lottery are bankrupt in 5 years. Why? Because if you're just given $1 million, you don't have a clue what to do with it, and you lose it because you don't know what to do with it. Now, if you grow and figure out how to make $1 million, you probably can hang on to it. Or if you lose it, you can make it again, right? Because you have the mindset to be able to do that. So it is the same process. So anything that shortcuts that process causes problems. All right, so let's talk about medication. We'll talk about blood pressure medication, okay? Okay, you can take blood pressure medication, or you can try to change your life. Try to change your lifestyle. Now, doctors used to try to do that. Like, Hippocratic Oath is, all right, we're going to try lifestyle intervention first, and then we're going to go to medication and then surgery, right? Those are the 3 steps. Right. Well, we don't do step 1 anymore. You know, the doctor, if you go to a hospital here in Illinois, if the doctor spends more than 15 minutes with you, his pay gets docked in a hospital.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so how a doctor's not going to teach you lifestyle, right?
Right.
Okay. So when we look at like an injection for weight loss, like semaglutide and Ozempic, we're trying to lose weight by shortchanging the process. Okay. Now, can we lose weight? Just like if we were given $1 million, do we all of a sudden become a millionaire? Yes.
Yes.
And then what? You're going to lose it all, right? And you're going to probably end up in a worse place than you started. Same thing with medications like this. Okay. We're going to end up in a worse place than we started. Specifically, there's a term that's called an obesogen. Obesogen is something we know that makes you obese. Okay. Now, when I was talking earlier about the one thing that we know that makes people obese, okay, with all of the factors and all of the theories, what is it that makes all of this make sense? And it is insulin. Okay. Chronically elevated insulin levels in the bloodstream cause obesity. Chronically, and if you reverse that, chronically low levels of insulin in the body cause weight loss.
Yeah.
Okay. Every time. So, for instance, type 1 diabetes is a diabetic who does not produce insulin enough, right? The beta cells in the pancreas do not work well enough to produce the insulin that person needs. So they have chronically low levels of insulin. Type 1 diabetics are thin.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're typically diagnosed in early adolescence or kids. It's an autoimmune disease, right? And they're thin because they have chronically low levels of insulin. They have to wear insulin pump to get the insulin up, right? We look at type 2 diabetes, which is insulin resistance. So the cells have become resistant to the insulin. So then what the body has to do, again, if the body can't, just like with the neurotransmitters, the body can't do something, it's going to signal for more of it. So it signals, we need more insulin, more insulin. So then what happens is we have chronically elevated insulin levels. That's why very, very few, like less than 5% of type 2 diabetics are at a healthy weight. Very few. You know, there's occasional, but it's very rare. And then here's the mind-blowing part. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to inject insulin into the diabetics. Okay, now, what causes obesity? Insulin. So now we're taking somebody who has an obesity issue, who has a insulin sensitivity issue, and we are going to inject them with insulin, which is going to make them fatter. And the more exogenous, outside the body, hormones you put into the body, right? The more the body will have to downregulate the receptors. Okay. So in other words, what causes, and I'll use another example. What causes for like alcoholics, right? What causes tolerance? The more they consume. Correct. They get tolerant of it, right? So and that's a perfect example of it. And it's true with everything in the body. The body will build tolerance, especially in something like alcohol, where it's considered a poison to the body, right? So what builds insulin tolerance or insulin resistance is more insulin. What causes alcohol resistance? Resistance and tolerance are the same thing. What causes that? More alcohol. So now we are treating diabetes with more diabetes.
Yeah.
And that's why a diabetic never gets off their medications, and they always continue to take more and more and more and more until they die of diabetes. And the pharmaceutical companies don't want anybody to know that you can reverse diabetes in a month. Like, you can completely reverse almost every case of type 2 diabetes in 1 month, and that's it.
By changing
your diet. Yeah. But see, there's no money
in that.
There's no money in that because
no money in that.
There is, and this is like 15 years ago. I don't know what it is today, but to keep a type 2 diabetic alive for 20 years is $1 million. Okay. So that is, if you're a type 2 diabetic and you go the normal Western route, Western medicine over the course of that time is going to get $1 million. That's your doctor's visits from the disease specifically. That's your medications, all of those things. It's $1 million. Yeah. So you're worth $1 million. That's a lot.
And if your diabetes gets worse, that's issues with your eyes, issues with your feet.
You start losing circulation.
Maybe amputation, other things like that.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, if you're not a diabetic,
so if you're not a diabetic and you're taking Ozempic,
you are obese,
or
you are obese according to
right,
according to these guidelines, because according to the guidelines, I am obese at my height and weight.
Right, which is why, like, we do body composition analysis at our office to get that, because it's more about it's all about body fat percentage,
And so someone who sees themselves as obese, let's say that, but they're not a diabetic,
right? Yeah. So
and now they take
insulin. So
or they take the
which is bringing back to that mechanism of action. So what does that do, right? What is those are the three big ones. They all do the same mechanism of action, which is basically encourages the body to create more insulin. Okay.
But because the body's trying to keep up with that pace of that injection.
Again, Ozempic was made for a diabetic. So So there are lots of different medications for diabetics. So they have metformin. Metformin, of all the diabetic medication, that would be the one that I'm most okay with, because its mechanism of action is it increases insulin sensitivity. It's a pretty harmless drug. It's got very few side effects. And the long-term side effect of the increasing the sensitivity, there really isn't. When I look at most medications and the mechanisms, the long-term effect of that is like, oh shit, okay. Yeah. But that one's not such a big deal. There's side effects because it's for some people, But that's how that works. Okay. Then you have, like Mounjaro, which is an injection, and Mounjaro works by also, it's like an injection you take once a week, increasing insulin production in the body, not to the level of like Ozempic. Ozempic increases insulin. So how does that cause weight loss? So here's how it causes weight loss. You eat food and your blood sugar goes up. Okay. Now that blood sugar, if it's not used, it's going to get stored as fat. Okay. Sugar gets stored as fat. It's not like fat doesn't get stored as fat. I mean, it can, but it's the sugar that gets stored as fat. So glucose that's not immediately used gets stored as fat. Right. So you eat a meal. You're probably not going to go out and use a bunch of glucose by going on a run or anything. So you're, probably going to get a good amount. It's going to get stored as fat.
Like, let's just go right here.
Store it around, right? So if you could elevate your insulin levels, or if your body, when you started eating, shot up your insulin levels higher than what's natural or higher than what your body's currently doing, it's going to grab that sugar faster, transport it faster. Okay? Less of it's going to get stored as fat. Okay? So the more insulin that you have in your body short term like that, it's going to cause weight loss. Okay. Now, what does that do over time? Okay. Over time, elevated insulin levels always cause obesity. Chronically elevated insulin levels always cause obesity. Over time, the thing that people are taking to lose weight is going to make them fat. It is, again, an obesogen. Anything that raises insulin levels is considered an obesogen.
And what happens when you stop taking it?
So again, when you stop taking it,
if you've injecting it, higher levels, higher levels of insulin, and then you stop taking this injection, and your body, because the drug has been giving you the higher levels, does your body say, oh, kind of like we talked about with the back brace earlier? Oh, well, I don't have to do that, because
Yep.
something's already doing it for me.
Right.
So I can just sit back and chill.
Yep. So the more you take, the less your body has to produce. So, we'll just, I think it's measured in milligrams per deciliter, but whatever. Let's just say, here's your insulin levels. Like this is 0 or close to 0. There's probably always a little bit in your bloodstream. And this is, you just ate a meal, insulin, right? And let's say if your body naturally is producing insulin to this level, okay, well, now it's producing it to this level. And then when it comes down, the resting insulin is still up a little bit, right? Okay. So now here's where it's at. The body's like, okay, well, I don't even need to do that much. And then it, like you said, it drops. So its need to produce more insulin isn't there, right? So then the body downregulates the production of insulin, of your own insulin, right? Now it's different if it's like, Mounjaro, which is increasing the insulin production in your body. But this is interesting. So like with Ozempic, it's increasing your body's production of it. If that's the case, if you all of a sudden stop whatever's pushing you, right, then the resulting action is going to be a much lower natural production, right? So if you all of a sudden, it's like, that's a good example. If you like for people who work a job and like your boss is like right there and you're like working really hard, and when the boss isn't there, you're not working as hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
same idea. So think of Ozempic as the boss that's telling the beta cells produce more insulin. Well, if you all of a sudden remove the boss,
okay, I don't have to work as hard.
I have to work as hard. And, I was working so hard, I did all this, I don't have to work even nearly as hard. So then what it's going to cause is rapid weight gain, basically. So when somebody stops Ozempic, they're going to have, their rapid weight gain is going to be the result of that. If people are going to stay on Ozempic for like 5 years, which honestly, if you start taking Ozempic, you're going to lose, 20, 30, 40 pounds. You might lose up to 60. If you don't change your diet, you're going to just continue. You'll exist at that weight loss. Your body will learn that intervention. Your metabolism will still deteriorate because of your diet and because of the injections. And you will then slowly start putting it back on. That is, if you still take the injection. So 5 years, that's my prediction. If you're on it for 5 years, you're going to have to continue to be on it the rest of your life, and you will still slowly gain weight. So let's just say a 200-pound person takes Ozempic, they get to 150. Okay, over the next 5 years, they'll probably be able to maintain that. But let's say a healthy weight for that person's 120. They don't actually get to their healthy weight, but they get to 150. Over the next 5 years, they'll be at 150. Starting year 6, it's going to slowly start creeping up, and probably 3 to 5 pounds a year is what I would predict. And it's greatly increasing their chances of type 2 diabetes.
Right.
So
then they have to stay on it.
Then they're going to have to stay on it because now they're going to be diabetic.
Right.
Yeah. So it is a very dangerous drug, not from a standpoint. I mean, there is also some crazy, I know Oprah had some crazy bad reaction to taking it. There's some crazy bad reactions just with any medication that you can have. But even if everything worked out perfectly, that's your best case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one last question as we're starting to wrap up. If wellness was a superhero, what would their name be? And what would their superpower be?
If wellness was a superhero,
yes,
what would their name be? And what would their superpower be?
Yes.
That's an amazing question. I think I could get a lot more creative if I had more time.
Well, we don't want that.
But we don't have that. I'm going to go with on the spot. You put me on the spot. I'm going to tomorrow. I'm going to have a great one, but I'll go with this.
We'll put it in the caption.
Put it in the caption. There you go.
The one for tomorrow.
There you go.
The one
after all of the angry atheists post on there. I hope we get sued by Walgreens. Honestly, if you get sued by Walgreens, that means that you've made it.
Yes, but no, thank you.
You don't need to sue us, Walgreens. I shop at you guys all the time.
Me too.
I do. I honestly do. Yeah. There's one right by my house. It's super
We
convenient.
walk to ours.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how convenient it is.
Very convenient. I would go with peace would be the name. Peace.
Okay.
And the superpower would be balance.
And how do they help people with balance? Like how do
So like life is seasons and like balance, and so you're not always going to be at your best body composition. For someone who's in the fitness industry and wellness industry, like I like to look great. I like to be on the beach with my shirt off and have all the girls be like, ooh.
Woo-hoo.
But it tends to just be the men. I don't get it. But all the girls,
it's not for you.
Yeah, it's not for you. Quit looking. I'm an equal opportunity looker. Okay, you can look, just can't touch. Anyway, so that's important to me, but I don't always look like I do when I post a picture of me shirtless. Like I don't walk around like that all the time. I do specific things to get there, take the photo, and then go back to where normal is. So that's balance. Like I don't have to always look like that, and I could be completely happy with that. I know specifically in like the fitness world, and then like I know, for a lot of people who take care of themselves, like their appearance is really important, and they're in the fitness industry. There can be depression when you work so hard, you compete or do whatever, and then afterwards you're going back a little bit. So it's understanding the seasons of life and balancing that. So like we'll even have clients that are like trying to lose weight while their mom is dying of cancer in the hospital. Yeah, and it's like, hey, it is okay to not try to do this at this moment in time and go take care of your mom. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Focus on that. Now let's talk about how can we focus on that and not gain weight right now. That would be a huge victory. Let's just focus on that.
Not gaining weight.
Yeah. And so balance is like, okay, I don't ever want to have any of our clients like say, oh, I can never do this food again. Like I want you to celebrate food. Like that's what it's for. Yeah. So if you enjoy alcohol, I want you to be able to drink alcohol. I want you to be able to do that in a way that doesn't damage your body, right? Or doesn't damage your body too much, right? When alcohol is kind of
too much.
Yeah. So when I look at the superpower of being able to help people balance, it's exactly that. It's just like that when people are balanced, there's that peace. It's like they're not too worried about anything. They're not too worried about their physical health. They're not too worried about their spiritual health. They're not too worried about their mind. It's just like they're just there and they're present and they're being, right? Yeah. So the superpower would just be, man, if I could lay my hands on people, actually it's something I learned in India. I can do it for a moment. It's called a siddhi. But anyway, it's just immediately giving somebody peace, right? For just a moment, like peace. It's like everything in life is balanced. And then for the person who is in balance and they see something out of balance, it's not like it's a stressful thing. It's like it's a happening. Oh, I observe that this is out of balance. Let me bring it back.
Right. Yeah, we was talking to another guest about balancing and as well as observing, stepping back and observing what's going on, taking note of it and then trying to adjust or do what you can after you observed it. Not saying, oh, this doesn't exist, because oftentimes we try to, oh, well, I'm fine, I'm fine. But acknowledging it and then kind of choosing the best path after observing it to move forward. So thank you. I hope you guys had your notebook. If not, that's okay. You can rewatch it. It's fine. You can rewind and go back.
Rewind and go back.
He gave a lot of good information, a lot of big terms, for us people who like to dummy things down.
I thought I explained things too.
No, you did great. But thank you, Davis, for joining us.
I always appreciate everything you do. All of the stands you take for people's health and wellness and lifestyle. And those of you who have never been to her facility, it's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
All the different things you do is so amazing. Absolutely, one-stop shop.
It's almost. We're tweaking.
What are you
things,
missing?
So maybe.
What are you missing?
IV therapy.
IV therapy.
Perhaps.
Like for the person who drinks too much the night before.
like the person.
Like Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of to something you kind of alluded to. It's not about, I would even say, even with the Vitalife program, it's not all about weight loss. It's about health and wellness.
Yeah.
Putting your body in a position to do what it needs to do for itself. And what's the side effect of that? Weight loss.
Weight loss.
By putting the body in the ideal position, you get weight loss from feeding it what it needs and what it wants and where it's deficient. So make sure you guys check out Vitalife. We will have the links below, as well as Davis's bio. If you want to reach out to them, like I said, we'll have the links where you can reach out, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or just call one of the facilities direct.
There you go.
Direct. So you can reach out and schedule a consultation, see how you can put your body in the best possible position to fight for itself and do what it needs to do for itself.